In so many Christmas Day worship services I've attended, there's a reading from the book of John, John chapter 1, and where we find a famous title for Jesus, the title of the Word. In the beginning was the Word, and that's John's nickname for Jesus. And why is he called the Word? Because we use our words to communicate to others things that are on our minds, things that are on our hearts, and Jesus is the way that God communicates his great love for us. That's why he's called the Word. Psalm 12 reminds us of one wonderful aspect of that word, where it reminds us that the words of the Lord are flawless. They are flawless. In other words, you can count on them. A number of years ago, I came across a study that someone did. They wanted to study the promises in the Bible, and they wanted to come up with a clever way to chart promises made and promises kept, and when they were kept, and how long it took. So they came up with 7,487 promises that God had given in the Bible, and then they put those promises on a timeline chart with the birth of Jesus right in the middle of the timeline. And before the birth of Jesus was of the times before Christ, and the times after Jesus, the times after Christ. And then if they made a promise way back here and it was kept, then they drew a line that far. And if they've made a promise here and then it was kept there, then it was a shorter line, and it was a different color, different things like that. And what he came up with was a neat looking chart that revealed not only that God has never broken a promise, but also when he charted it, I hope you're able to see this. It's kind of a neat thing. So here's the timeline here. Right in the middle is the birth of Jesus, the times before Jesus was born, and the promises and when they were kept, all these different things. With the way he color-coded them and connected them, he came up with a neat way to illustrate that God has kept every one of his promises, and it kind of looks like a rainbow, which was, of course, the sign that God put in the sky during the time of Noah to remind Noah that he was going to keep his promise to love the whole world. And that's what Christmas is. It's a reminder that God keeps his promise to love the whole world. The whole world in general, but Psalm 12 gives us some particular people in the world that God is going to be there for. The oppressed and the needy. It talks about people who are oppressed by life, by others, by themselves, their guilt. And people who are needy, people who are not strong enough to make it through life on their own, people who are too weak to go up against temptations, people who are too scared sometimes to stand up for God, the oppressed and the needy. Psalm 12 reminds us that God sees the oppressed and the needy, and then he makes a promise. God says, I will protect them. I will protect them. And then it shares the comfort. The word of the Lord is flawless. It is flawless. And so if God says he is going to protect you, if God says that he is going to love you, if God says that he has forgiven you, if God says that he is with you, promise made, and you'll see. Promise kept. The word of the Lord is flawless. Merry Christmas, and rest well tonight, my friends.